my name's Kate, I'm the editor of Knit Now magazine.
And I'm Debbie.
So this is actual Debbie Bliss. In case you didn't know, we're very, very lucky to have her in the studio today. So we thought we'd have a chat about knitwear and squishy woolly things, and what you've been up to, and what we might be expecting to see from Debbie soon. But before we get into that, for the 3 people watching who haven't heard of Debbie Bliss, shall we, just like the basic question is,
Who are you?
who are you? What do you do?
Well, I'm just saying earlier, because I've been around so long, I'm just so excited at the idea of anybody who meets me that does actually know who I am. Because, Debbie Bliss, I'm a knitwear designer, and my historically my work has been nearly always in publishing, apart from a few forays into ready-to-wear with companies like Baby Gap, and then 2000 I launched a range of knitting yarns. So at the moment I go between designing the collections to support the yarns, but also going out to amazing places like Florence and going to Pitti Filati Fair to look at the new yarns that are coming out. So there's also the looking at yarns and trying to think what I might like to put in my range for the next season.
So I guess that's where that's your sort of starting point with any range, is going and seeing what's out there, new compositions, new skins, and then you're also really well known, I think, for your choice of colours. So how do you go about choosing a colour palette for a yarn collection?
It depends actually. If it's for a new yarn, then mostly it's going to be it's almost like, and I know as I say it sounds really pretentious, but it's, as I'm working with a new yarn, it's almost like a bit like a stream of consciousness. I'll be thinking it might be a soft cotton, which might make me think a really soft dusky palette, might be thinking, ooh, Riviera, carried on, to catch a thief, things like that. Or it might be that it'd be like in a silk blend where I'll think about really bright, intense colours, because I live in an area of East London that we've got a lot of amazing sari shops, so there's always some kind of clashing colours a lot of the time I wouldn't necessarily put together. But so as I'm working with it, I think it will almost like tell me what the colour palette should be. And so it may be very soft and dusky. There's going to be a wonderful 100% cashmere coming out next year, which I'm already thinking about using particularly for babies, but the palette I've used is very soft, very classic, going from lovely greys and browns, but also to sort of lovely willow greens and dusky pastels. But then I'm also trying to put new colours in the existing ranges. And for that, I'll just continue the ones that are just selling really badly, but also be aware that you still need a colour balance as well, and a harmony in the palette. And when I go out to Pitti Filati, I'm looking at new yarns, but I'm also looking at the colour trends that are coming up. I'd find it really difficult to put in colours that I'd find perhaps unwearable. Or it may be that there's something else triggers, like there might be a bottle green that reminds me of my daughter hating her school uniform. So all colour
as someone with
subjective,
a bottle green school uniform,
hello.
I have sympathy with that.
Yeah, that can be life defining. That colour, that's why you never wear that colour. And what I'll do is I'll think about the colour trends, because sometimes if I might not feel particular empathy towards the colour, but I'll know that the buyers that are going out to Pitti 2 from ready to wear, they're looking at those colours, and sometimes you'll see them in the shops and you'll go, oh, actually, burnt orange is lovely if you wear it with chocolate brown or grey. So I'm also trying to think about what of those colours, the trend colours, might be around the following season. But still, again, it's all about balance and harmony. So it's, if I'm taking 6 shades out, say, putting 6 in, those new ones have still got to make you look at the whole range and go, oh yeah, that feels really right.
So do you feel it starts with the colour palette choice then, and that leads into designs? Or do you sometimes say, I want to do Fair Isle with this yarn, so I need...
that's a really good question, because I think that actually sometimes what you think that you're going to be designing in would inform that colour palette. So for instance, the Fair Isle sweater here
Let's have a look
that
at
I
it
brought
on
in.
the close-up, because that's
This is one of the collections for next spring, is based on my passion for the Crown series. But when I first was looking at the range of colours for Rialto 4-ply, I'm not even sure when it came out, but let's say it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I knew that with 4-ply I was probably going to use it in Fair Isle or colour work. So one of the most important colours then I wanted to have in the palette was going to be some neutral, whether it would be this kind of stone shade or something, and then also looking at, say, tonal colours, so some blues or reds going into pinks that I know would make that lovely shading that makes a Fair Isle sing out.
Yeah, so things like, if we go again on the close-up, what I love about what you've done on this is actually this pale pink that runs through the centre of this. It's a very similar tone to the grey that's either side of it. So in Fair Isle, they blend beautifully in the background and let like the contrast colours really pop in front of it. I think it's lovely.
I think that's why often Fair Isle can take so long to do, because even with a really simple pattern repeat, it's all about harmony in the colours, but also with some really beautiful Fair Isles, you can always get a slightly three-dimensional effect by how you're using the colour shading as well.
Yeah. It's one of my favourite things to play with. Yeah. So onto this collection artwork then, which is one that's coming in the next few months.
It should be coming out, say, the end of March. So that's why I particularly chosen colours that are going to be more spring-like. And trying to look at those sort of retro-y, more vintage knits, but still making them quite contemporary, so maybe looking at the shape and wanting them to be quite neat still. And then the other thing that I think is nice, when you can marry up, say, that theme of the more vintagey knits with a look that's very strong now. So there's been lots of embroidery around on knitwear, so that's lovely. But also it very much fits into this kind of embroidered Tyrrhenian look that was very strong in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah. Let's have a look close up again, because this is absolutely gorgeous. And the thing I love about embroidery is actually it's so much simpler than it looks.
It is.
And for folks who are maybe a little bit scared of going into colour work and Fair Isle and things like that, it's a lovely way to add that colour, because even if you don't get the stitch in the right place the first time, you can just redo it. It's much more forgiving, I think.
I agree, because I think actually on knitwear, you don't have to make it perfect, and actually you can always go, oh, I meant to do that. And but also that kind of more like folkloric look, which is lovely. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, you could almost argue that there's a kind of charm about it not being too perfect here.
Yeah, if you want it completely perfect, buy it from a shop, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's a really good answer.
I'll just remember that. There's no such thing as mistakes, they are design features.
Yes, they are, yes. Meant to do it.
Yeah. So these 3 pieces here, it's lovely. So there's like a little Fair Isle yoke, which we've been asked for patterns similar to this recently, because a similar design appeared in the Sabrina series on Netflix. And someone's like, we have to get a pattern that's like that. It's like, anyone that was asking for that, keep an eye out on for these.
I've just started watching that. I must have missed the Fair Isle yoke sweater.
It's a little bit later in the series. There's 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's like a gold one and a red one. They're really, really good.
You're a fan by any chance?
I may have written a blog post about the knitwear in Sabrina, because I am a massive nerd. I'll link to that down below. So these for your Crown inspired collection, and as with everything from you now, it's all available from Love Knitting.
That's right, yeah. So very few yarns are not available now. There are, I think, perhaps a couple of yarns that were struggling that have been discontinued, but everything else is still, I would say 90% of what was in the ranges last year is still available now at Love Knitting,
Yeah. So how's it been working with those guys? I know, like, Jenny behind the camera, that we've worked with Love Knitting for years.
It's been lovely, and I was saying that one of the things I've liked is that even though obviously it's like any, you know, company, it obviously has its corporate qualities, but then I walk in and then there's a long table that so many people sit around and knit at and craft at lunch hours, and they're not always people that are involved in product. A lot of them will still be the techie people that are behind, you know, I don't always see because they're behind massive computer screens, but everyone loves it. It's just, it's like walking into a shop's workshop, you know, it's brilliant.
And yeah, so obviously that now means that all of your yarns, which had been unavailable for a little while, they're all back with a bang. And yeah, you know, I couldn't get on without Rialto in particular, and yes.
No, it's been an amazing opportunity because it did look for 6 months as if it was just going to, the whole brand was going to cease to exist. So this has been a great opportunity, and also a huge relief as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, we're very, very happy that it's worked out.
Thank you.
And we're excited to be, you know, talking about the brand again. And
because I would have missed the whole knitting community as well. It isn't just about, obviously this is my career, this is my, you know, what, you know, supports my family, but it's also about all the other relationships that you build up in the community too. I would have felt very sad to have lost that.
Oh, we wouldn't have let you go. We're going to got you back somehow.
I'd have come without a struggle, definitely.
One little guy, he's off camera at the moment, so we're going to sneak him in. He's just been staring at me.
Yes.
So well, 2 more designs that we just have to have a little look at. Look at his little...
I have to say he does look quite depressed, but I realise there's no way that you can do a bear face without him looking a little sad.
Yeah, bears just are quite contemplative.
They are, but they're
creatures.
Contemplative. I like that rather than, he does look a little sad. But this is when I first joined Love Crafts. There was already one of the collections, the ideas they'd had was about pairing up a toy with a knit, and one of my proudest moments was when I did the first pitch for the Seattle Mariners baseball team in Seattle, strangely, and so I thought it'd be really lovely to do a kind of homage to them because it was such a great experience, and so I thought it'd be lovely to have a knit that also teamed up with a toy as well. And so it's using the colours of the Seattle Mariners team. But actually with something like this you could make it in any colours. It could be the football colours. It could be anything that has some kind of link between the two. And I just think there's something very cute about having something that's like a little mini me as well.
There's this little guy. And then the little...
And this is the actual signed baseball as well. Yeah.
Oh
yes.
That's very fancy.
Yeah. I did actually practice with a ball of wool until because I only had the opportunity to do this when I actually got on the pitch. But
so cute. I love him. So, is there anything else that we need to tell our lovely audience about what's coming soon?
You
mentioned the cashmere, which
cashmere.
is lovely. I've felt it. It's
it is, isn't it?
Clouds.
It's delicious, and it's going to come in 25-gram balls. And even though I'd never not want somebody to knit with it, I just actually find myself just holding a ball and just looking at it as well. So that will be coming out very early on in the new year. And then there'll be other collections. There'll be one based on the Bauhaus exhibition that's been on recently.
I'm really excited to see
that. And another collection based on landscape when I went to Iceland a couple of years ago. Then again the crown one. So there'll be a rolling. The collections will come out in exactly the same way as they did before.
Yeah, and there's the most recent one is the Colourful Kids.
That's right. Yeah.
It's just hit.
So I decided I wanted to do something that was slightly out of my comfort zone because I know that I have a terrible tendency to always stay in the grey and the browns, the navies and the dusky pastels.
Which are very beautiful.
Thank you. But actually, I thought, no, I'm going to do something that's more colourful. So there is a a sweater with a beret and mittens, which I think actually hand warmers appear in the magazine.
Yes, we put them in our news pages in issue 96, which is imminently out now, depending on when I release this video.
So I'm very excited about them appearing in the magazine. There's because I still have to have the classic as well. There's an Aran sweater in a really acid yellow, a gingham cardigan with some embroidery around the yoke, and a stripy sweater. So actually it was lovely. I had a lot of fun then actually working with the brighter colours too.
Yeah, those are really pretty. I think those should go down well. And like we said, all the patterns, all the yarns available on the website, which we will leave links to, everything like that. So unless there's anything else, I think
that's it. Thank you very much for inviting me on the show. Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming.